On Tuesday night, we saw several instances of riders going off the track or cutting the track, which resulted in a variance of penalties. While it seemed like there was essentially random penalties applied to each specific incident, there is actually a segment of the AMA rulebook that applies to how the penalties were given. Let's take a look at each incident. Cameron McAdoo. Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki's Cameron McAdoo was assessed a 3-place penalty after crashing in the whoops on lap 7 and rejoining the track before the wall jump. While McAdoo did lose 6 positions outright from his fall, the AMA looked specifically at how many spots McAdoo would have lost had he chosen to rejoin the track at the end of the whoops instead. Given that Justin Cooper and Cody Schock were both going through the whoops as McAdoo was turning around, yet he rejoined in front of them, the AMA's penalty was for those 2 positions that he gained, plus an extra penalty for committing the infraction. The rulebook states, the minimum penalty for gaining an advantage while off course during a race will be the loss of number of positions gained plus 1 additional position in the final results for that race based on the severity of advantage gained as deemed by race direction. If no positions were gained, the minimum penalty will be the loss of 1 position in the final results for the race based on the severity of advantage gained as deemed by race direction. So, 2 riders potentially would have passed McAdoo had he rejoined after the whoops, plus committing the infraction, thus a 3-place penalty given. Jason Anderson. Rockstar Energy Husqvarna's Jason Anderson had to evade running into the downed Vince Friese and stopped Brock Tickle on the 5th lap of the 450 Supercross main event. As Anderson exited the track, he was already ahead of the chaos, but he hopped a tough block and then accelerated alongside the whoops the whole way until rejoining in the next corner. Afterwards, he was assessed a 1-place penalty. Going back to the rulebook, it says, if a rider accelerates in an unsafe manner while off the course or cuts part of the race course, the rider may be determined to have gained an advantage without actually gaining a position. So, while no position was gained, AMA believed Anderson was either unsafe with his move or had gained an advantage and thus 1-place penalty. Brandon Hartranft. Twisted Tea Heb Suzuki's Brandon Hartranft went off the track after Cade Clason took him wide for the 4th and final transfer spot in the LCQ. Hartranft sped around the wall jump and rejoined in front of Clason. As Clason was essentially side by side with Hartranft, the AMA deemed that Hartranft had repassed Clason from off track and handed him a 2-place penalty which kept him out of the main event. As mentioned, the 1-place penalty is assessed for gaining an advantage with the additional penalty added on for any positions gained. So while the rulings did create a lot of frustration and confusion, there was a rhyme and reason to why each penalty was actually given. In the end, the biggest one was McAdoo, which has cost him the championship lead as he now sits 1 point behind Hunter Lawrence in 250 West. That's all for this edition of RacerX Rapid News presented by Fly Racing. Be sure to visit racerxonline.com for all your Supercross news.